She had one hand on a crate of strawberries and the other holding her phone to her ear, yelling, "Yes, officer. He's threatening me. I need help right now." Her voice was loud enough to scare the horses in the nearby stable. I wasn't moving. I just stood there, my arms crossed, watching her load the crops my son had planted months ago into her SUV like she owned the damn place. "I told you to step away," I said calmly. "This is my land. Those are my strawberries." But Karen, platinum blonde bob, oversized sunglasses, and an attitude bigger than Texas, acted like she didn't even hear me. She turned to the kid sitting in her car and said, "Don't worry, sweetie, Mommy got you fresh organic fruit. That's what happens when lazy neighbors don't pick it in time." I clenched my jaw. Lazy neighbor? My son had been out here every morning before school, watering, weeding, and tracking growth with a damn science notebook. It was his project for school. Hell, it was his pride. And she just took it. "You have 10 seconds to stop what you're doing," I warned. "Or I swear you'll regret it." She laughed, loud, fake, and full of nerves. "Oh, please, you don't even belong here. I represent the HOA, and according to new guidelines, unused land can be claimed for shared community use. Look it up." "Lady," I said, stepping forward, "this is a private ranch. We're not even under HOA jurisdiction." That's when she pulled a folded piece of paper from her purse and slapped it against my chest. "It's official. See? Stamped and everything. You've been notified. Now get off before I charge you with trespassing." I looked down at the paper. It wasn't stamped by any legal office. Just some fake HOA letterhead and a bunch of bolded words like Emergency Resource Reallocation and Community Urgency Act. Total garbage. "I'm giving you one chance," I said slowly. "Put the crates down, get off my property, and never come back." She didn't even flinch. She kept her phone to her ear. "Yes, he's threatening me again. Yes, I feel unsafe. Just come quickly, he's getting aggressive." My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the fury I was holding back. Not just because she was stealing, but because my son was going to come home from school in just a few minutes, run down that dirt path barefoot like he always did, and see his hard work stolen by some woman who thought her kid deserved more than mine. And that's when I heard the sirens. 3 squad cars pulled into the gravel driveway. She smiled at me. "You're going to regret talking to me like that." She didn't know. This was going to be the biggest mistake of her life. The first officer out of the car was a young guy, maybe late 20s. He looked confused, like he'd expected to see a fight, not a woman in yoga pants surrounded by crates of stolen produce and a man standing calmly with his arms crossed. Karen ran toward him like she'd rehearsed it. "Officer, thank God." He was screaming and threatening me. He tried to block my car when I was just collecting shared community crops for my son's medical diet. He's been aggressive ever since we moved in. He even threatened to shoot my dog last month. I didn't say a word. I just looked the officer in the eye and waited. He glanced at me, then back at her. "Ma'am, can I see your ID?" "What?" "Why?" she snapped. "I'm the one who called. Why are you asking me questions?" "Because," came a new voice, deep and calm, from behind the second squad car. "He didn't break any laws. You did." Karen froze, and I smiled. The second officer, gray-haired, tall, and calm, stepped forward. "Karen, right? We've had reports about you before. Fake HOA notices, harassment, trespassing, and now theft." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "You don't understand," she blurted. "These people don't take care of the land. Look at this place. It's full of weeds, broken fences, and junk cars. The HOA has the right to protect the value of our neighborhood." I finally spoke. "Karen, this isn't a neighborhood. This is my ranch. It's been in my family since 1954. You moved into a house across the county line. You're not even part of this district." The younger officer's eyes widened. "Wait, she's not in the same jurisdiction?" "Nope," the older cop said, "and I can prove it." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded document. "County records, this land is registered to John M. Reyes. Sole owner, no HOA." Karen blinked. John M. Reyes, she whispered. Wait, you're John Reyes? She looked at me again, her mouth slowly parted in shock. You said your name was Jack? I nodded. Jack's short for John. You should have checked the mailbox instead of taping fake notices to the gate. She started backing up toward her car. This is all a misunderstanding. I didn't know it was yours. I thought it was unused land. That's not what you said in your voicemail, the older officer replied. She stopped cold. Voicemail? I pulled my phone from my pocket. You didn't block your number when you called yesterday threatening to reclaim unused property. Before it goes to waste. My son's phone recorded the whole thing too. He was standing behind the barn. Karen's face drained of color. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked around. 2 cops, me, the crates of stolen crops, and still she tried one more move. You have no right to record me, she snapped. That's a violation of my privacy. Not when you're standing on my land, I said flatly. The older officer nodded. And not when the recording is part of a potential criminal investigation. She turned to the young cop. Please, I have a son in the car. I'm just trying to do what's right for him. He didn't budge. So was this man's son. That's when my boy came running down the path, his backpack bouncing on his shoulders, his face bright, until he saw the scene. He stopped, looked at the empty crop beds, looked at me, then looked at Karen, and said just one word. Why? Karen couldn't answer. But I could. I walked over to my son, put a hand on his shoulder, and knelt down to his level. She thought your work didn't matter, buddy, but we're making sure she learns that it does. He looked up at me with those wide, confused eyes, the kind no kid should have to wear after school. She took everything? He asked quietly. Almost everything, I said. But not your name, not your work, not your truth. Behind me, Karen was pacing now, frantic. I didn't steal, I relocated the crops. The soil here is toxic, I was trying to help. You don't know what it's like raising a child with health conditions. The older officer cut her off. Ma'am, enough, you were warned before. You've harassed this family, forged HOA letters. You've now taken property that doesn't belong to you. We'll need you to come with us. No, wait, please, let me call my husband. He's a lawyer. This is going to ruin my reputation. My son is watching. She was sobbing now. Big, dramatic cries, the kind meant to win sympathy. But nobody moved. The young officer moved in and began to read her rights. As she was being cuffed, she yelled, "This isn't over. I know people. I run this neighborhood. This was supposed to be a shared space." I just shook my head. No, Karen. This is my son's space, and you just tried to erase that. Suddenly, her tone changed. Wait. Before you arrest me, check my phone. I got texts, messages from the real HOA. They told me to clean up this place. They said the Reyes family was squatting here. I raised an eyebrow. Squatting? The older officer snatched the phone and scrolled for a second. Then he stopped. Well, would you look at that? He turned the screen toward me. It was a thread of messages. Not from an official HOA line, but from a private number labeled HOA Director Phil. And in those messages, "Don't worry, Karen. He's a fake rancher. His land's under review anyway. Clear it out. Claim the space. He's not registered properly. If he resists, call the police. Make him look unstable. We'll handle the rest." I stared at the screen. Phil, HOA Director. The same. Guy who knocked on my door last month with a fake smile and a basket of muffins talking about new community plans and land redevelopment proposals. So this wasn't just Karen being Karen. This was something bigger. I stood up slowly, my heart pounding in a different rhythm now. This wasn't just some entitled neighbor overstepping. This was a setup, a plan. They were trying to take the land, my land, by force, by lies, by using people like Karen to do their dirty work. The older officer looked over at me. You want to press charges now or wait until we track down this Phil character? I glanced down at my son. His eyes were still on the crates, half full now, strawberries crushed from being thrown carelessly in. I turned back to the officer. We press charges now, but not just on her. I pointed at Karen, who had gone pale as chalk. We go after the one pulling the strings. Karen snapped. I didn't know he was lying. He said you were undocumented, that the ranch was abandoned. He said you were scamming the system. She was digging fast now, trying to claw her way out of the hole she built. He said if I helped clean up the land, I'd get a spot on the HOA board. I was just trying to do what's right. The young officer locked the cuffs behind her. Heck, you know what's right? Not stealing from a kid? Karen turned, pleading with the older officer now. You know how this works, this kind of land, it gets lost in paperwork. Phil said the county was already flagging it for development. He said it would be mine if I acted fast. The older officer turned to me. You got paperwork on you? I nodded. In the barn, deed, survey maps, property tax receipts, all in a waterproof box. Been ready for years, ever since these HOA folks started sniffing around. He nodded with something like respect in his eyes. Good. Because if this Phil guy's messing with land records or impersonating a government process, we're looking at felony charges, fraud, conspiracy, maybe more. Karen's head dropped. He promised I'd be protected. I stepped forward, looked her right in the eyes. You thought you were playing hero, huh? Saving the neighborhood, fixing the eyesore next door. You didn't stop to think that maybe, just maybe, you were the one being used. She didn't answer, but her silence said everything. Just then, the older officer's radio buzzed. He answered. Yeah, got it. We're headed in. He hung up and looked at me. You're going to want to hear this. County Records Office just confirmed. Phil made multiple requests to access and adjust old land surveys in this area, all without official clearance. I let out a slow breath. So he's been trying to erase my land rights on paper before, sending people like her to erase them in person. Looks that way, he said. My son tugged at my sleeve. Dad, is our ranch safe? I looked down at him and smiled. Not just safe, kiddo. It's stronger than ever. Then I turned toward Karen, as they led her toward the patrol car. You tried to take my son's crops, but what you really did was show me who's been behind this all along. Karen's face twisted as the door shut behind her. Her cries, muffled. Her story, unraveling. And the real battle, that was just beginning. 2 days later, I was sitting across the table from a county investigator in a small government office, staring at copies of documents that had my name crossed out. Phil used an internal loophole, the investigator explained, sliding the papers toward me. He filed a development review request, which temporarily freezes the land's ownership status in certain databases, especially if no active legal dispute is noted. Most people don't even notice. I leaned back, stunned. So he was trying to make it look like my land didn't exist, at least on paper. Exactly. And if you hadn't kept physical copies, this could have gotten buried for months. Long enough for someone like Karen to move in, claim it's abandoned, and argue possession rights. It all made sense now. Why the HOA had been so persistent. Why Phil kept showing up with friendly reminders about joining community programs. It was never about the community. It was about control. The investigator continued. What's worse, Phil wasn't acting alone. We're pulling emails between him and 3 other HOA board members. Looks like they've been targeting small properties near the edge of their zone for years. You were just the one who pushed back. Shook my head. And Karen? She's talking, singing like a bird, trying to make a deal. Claims she was manipulated, but those fake notices and the voicemail recordings won't help her case. I took a deep breath. So what now? Well, the investigator said, now we expose them, legally, publicly, and permanently. Later, that week I stood in front of a crowd at the county meeting hall. News cameras lined the back wall. Karen and Phil were both absent, both under investigation. But people from the surrounding neighborhoods were packed into every seat. The county commissioner cleared her throat and handed me the mic. "Mr. Reyes, you have the floor." I stepped forward, glanced at my son sitting in the front row, and began. "This land has been in my family for 70 years. We've planted, raised, and worked it through droughts, floods, and more HOA flyers than I can count. But last week, someone tried to steal it. Not with guns or bulldozers, but with lies, with paper, with fake authority." The room went still. Everyone was listening, really listening. They said it was for the good of the community, that they were protecting our neighborhood's image. But what they were really doing and was taking from a kid who worked this land with his bare hands. A few gasps, a couple heads nodded. And when I stood in their way, they sent a woman to scream lies, call the police, and claim I didn't belong here. But I do. I always have. I paused, let the silence stretch, then delivered the line I knew they'd remember. "You don't need a uniform or a title to defend your home. You just need to know it's yours." Applause broke out. First small, then stronger. Not because it was a speech, but because it was truth. In that moment, I knew they weren't just defending my land anymore. They were defending what it meant: freedom, family, and the right to stand your ground. But there was still one more thing left to do. A week later, I stood at the edge of my field, same spot Karen had stood when she tried to take what wasn't hers. Except now the crates were full again. My son had replanted every row, and this time, half the neighborhood showed up to help. Some brought seeds, some brought water, a few brought their kids to learn from the boy who stood up to a bully. The ranch, which had once been quietly ignored, was now the talk of the town, and not because of the crops, because it had become a symbol. But the story wasn't over yet. That morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered, expecting maybe another news station or county office. Instead, I heard a man's voice, shaky but polite. "Mr. Reyes? This is Michael Danton. I'm Karen's husband." My grip on the phone tightened. "You've got some nerve calling me." "I know," he said quickly. "And I'm not here to defend her. I found some things in her email. HOA, board threads, messages from Phil, things she never told me about." I didn't say anything. Let him talk. "She was promised something, Mr. Reyes. Not just land. They offered her a full development deal. Told her if she helped evict you, she could turn your field into a private learning garden for her son's business. Said it would be good PR for the HOA and her family. She thought it was real." "Her son's business?" I said slowly. "You mean she tried to take my kid's work and brand it for hers?" "Yes," he said, almost ashamed. "They had a logo, a whole plan. Future Sprouts by Oliver. She never told me she was planning to steal someone else's harvest to launch it." I was silent for a second, then asked, "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I didn't sign up for this. Neither did my son, and I'm filing for divorce." That hit harder than I expected. I wasn't sure if I felt bad or just vindicated. "I sent everything I found to the county," he added. "Emails, documents, board meeting recordings. Fill in the others? They're finished." I let out a breath. "Good." Before hanging up, he paused and said, "I just wanted you to know, not everyone in that house agreed with what she did. And I'm sorry. Truly." We ended the call. I stood in silence for a moment, watching my son play with two kids from next door, dirt on their faces, laughter in the air. Then I looked toward the edge of the ranch, where the old HOA boundary sign used to stand. Where Karen once screamed, "You can't live here anymore." Not only was that sign gone, it had been replaced with a new one, painted by hand, hung proudly. "This land belongs to the ones who grow, not the ones who take." Justice wasn't loud. It didn't always come with sirens or handcuffs. Sometimes it came quietly, through dirt-covered hands, old deeds, and a field full of strawberries no one could ever take again. The end.